Hey everyone, Monica Bodierski here, artist and author of the Shadowland Tarot, the House of Shadows Lenormand, and coming in September, the Shadowland Lenormand. I've had a wonderful day at the Witch City Tarot Gathering, and we were talking about shadows and shadow work and the Shadowland Tarot. So stick around. I'm going to give you some tips on how to jump into shadow work. Welcome to Shadow. Okay, everyone, gather round. Let's talk shadow work. It's something that people avoid a lot, I think, because it's difficult. So, I'm going to take you through some steps here to get you started on your journey. Now, just a reminder, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm just a person, just a witch, just a diviner, just someone who's done a lot of shadow work. I'm also an artist, so I'm absolutely fascinated by Carl Jung, his archetypes, symbolism, and that's how I learned about shadow work. So, let's begin. Number one, make sure you are feeling stable and well rested. That's important. You know, shadow work isn't something I would jump into feeling really awful. Your mind can play some incredible tricks, and it would be better if you just felt even semi-mellow here. Take deep breaths. Number two, find that quiet space in your home, in your yard, in a park. Not that that's so quiet, somewhere where you have at least an hour of uninterrupted you time. Okay, number three, unplug. You heard me. No phone, no computer, no sound, no music, not even really, you don't need incense, this is a ritual. For me, not everyone approaches shadow work as a ritual, by the way, that's part of my practice, but you don't need all the trappings. What you need is quiet time and space and no distraction. If you find incense puts you in the mood, all good. Okay, so you're sitting quietly and comfortably. Why sitting? Because if you lie down, you will fall asleep. Not that I've ever done it. Not that I've ever fallen asleep trying to meditate or do shadow work. Looks away. Okay, so try sitting comfortably. Next, let your mind wander so that you can get rid of some negative thoughts, or at least release some of the things that are on your mind, that have been on your mind all day long, that might get in the way a little bit. So take 10 to 15 minutes just to let it all pour out, okay? After that, I'd like you to jot down some of the things that came to mind. Oh, that's where the shadows tend to hide. Okay. Now, they could just be everyday occurrences, but jot them down anyway. Let all those things out, okay? By writing down what they are, whether it's words, pictures, imagery. I tend to do a lot of mixed things in a sketchbook, just so I know what came to my mind first and foremost. And I'd like you to take a look at those things next and try to determine any underlying source of distress or reactions, or the things that cascade. And by that I mean, if you're thinking, I wonder why she said that. Why do people always have to be, okay? Right away, you see how that kind of segued into a bigger picture right from the micro to the macro? That's what you need to look at in shadow work. Those are underlying patterns of repetition, okay? So that's one of the things you're noting, if it's something that happens a lot. Okay, next point. Let's say you remember yourself doing something embarrassing, such as losing a large sum of money on a risky venture, or perhaps frivolous spending, let's just say. A shadow may manifest by you not recognizing a flaw that you may have and you might be justifying your behavior. But what happens with that kind of shadow is you might be also projecting that onto other people and criticizing how they spend their money. That is one of the keys to shadow work, is looking at yourself honestly, taking the time to do that so you can integrate your shadows and move forward as a healthier, happier person. So then you want to look at if you find a shadow in there. If you don't worry, this takes time. Sometimes you need to repeat this for days and weeks and months. It's not as simple as pushing a button and having it happen. When we shove these things to the deep recesses of our unconscious mind, they can be really difficult to excavate. But if you found a shadow, threw your light on it, there it is, lurking. Think about and write down where you think that originated. So, I talked about money as an example. So those things come up from experiences. They can be exaggerated by certain personality types. If it's gambling and you have an addictive personality, I get all that. But I'd like you to look at the bigger picture of your relationship then with finances and say, how did that start? Was I told that possessions were more important than anything by peers, the community, society, my parents? Take a look at that. Take a look at that and challenge that perception. It could be you are acting in a certain way, you've internalized it, and you aren't really aware of it, because to recognize it might mean you're an awful person, and we don't want to do that, okay? So this is where tarot comes in. If you're having a little bit of trouble finding a shadow, or you're not sure what that means, not to confuse the issue, but to enhance the experience of finding it, use your tarot cards or Lenormand cards or even oracle cards. I use the House of Shadows, and I use the Shadowland Tarot. They were designed for shadow work, so there is imagery in there that I find most helpful. So the cards are providing archetypal imagery and messages that can help us bridge the conscious and subconscious and help us recognize and identify some of those what we would consider less than appropriate behaviors, which is often how we can recognize them as shadows. There are things, too, that I consider interfering with quality of life. If you find that you have quite the sharp temperament and it's repeated, it's a certain thing like FOMO. So let's just say you have a fear of missing out constantly. Where did that come from? And do you leave others out? Take a look at that unflinchingly. And it's not about beating yourself up when you find things that are less than perfect. It's about accepting that we are all imperfect. Okay? So this practice isn't about minimizing trauma at all. No, not in the least. It's my personal shadow work based on Jungian theories to help integrate and eradicate those splintered parts of self that might be interfering. This is kind of, for me, when we talk about distinguishing between maybe dysfunctional behaviors or bad behaviors that we think they're bad or other people do, and being a bad people. Sometimes that's another reason people don't want to do this, is because they feel they're bad people. No, they're just behaviors, and we actually have control. We can change them. We just need to take a look at them and not be horrified by it, because we all have them. It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. And it's ongoing throughout our whole lives. Okay, so another point, take your time and be patient. These things unfold over our lifetime. And even when we think we've fully integrated a shadow, there it pops up again. Darn it. Just like a bad game of whack-a-mole at the concession at the fair. Okay, so happy shadow hunting. I hope this is a little more specific because I find most people talk about shadow work, myself included, sometimes in such an ambiguous and vague sort of a way, it's hard to get a handle on that. If you want more information and you want these points with detail, please visit my website. I created a free downloadable PDF for you, no strings attached. You don't have to sign up for the newsletter or anything. Just go download the PDF and read through it. And if you have any questions, contact me or watch some of my readings on IGTV, and you'll probably find out a little bit more about yourself and feel better about yourself once you understand everyone has these shadows and carry them through their lifetime. Okay, everyone, this was for the full moon reset button. So have yourselves a wonderful week, and I will talk to you real soon. Leave your comments, hit the bell, you know the drill. Please subscribe. Okay, everyone, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.